The mob turns on Portland's mayor, a $1,000 fine for no mask outdoors in D.C., the Chinese consulate shut down in Houston, and are school pods racist? Welcome, everybody, to the Buck Sexton Show. I want to jump right to it. Are you feeling that right now? There's so much happening. It's a presidential campaign. It's an election season that no one's really talking about the political candidates very much or their platforms or anything else. No, we're just in the midst of a fight for the future of America on the streets and across the country. That's what's happening right now. And Democrats have got a problem. They are now the riot party. They're firmly entrenched on the side of rioters across America. And the media is working overtime, bending over backwards, doing everything they can to make it either seem like these protests are mostly peaceful when we know they're not, or they just don't cover this. We are now at almost 2 months of nightly mayhem in Portland, Oregon. Almost 2 months every night. And the only thing you're hearing from the mainstream media, from CNN and ABC and New York Times and all the rest, about what's going on in Portland is how scary it is that Trump has sent federal law enforcement officers to assist because of the lawlessness on the streets of Portland. I'm looking at this and saying it's amazing that any honest person, any intelligent human being could have a problem with what Trump is doing right now when you understand how federal law enforcement actually works, where it is, how it works hand in glove with local law enforcement all across the country all the time. But no, the focus is on Trump sending in the Stasi. These are probably the people that will help him not leave the Oval Office if he wins again, or if he doesn't lose, rather. Whatever. Either way, they're going to help him not leave the Oval Office. Mayor Ted Wheeler, I want to give him credit. Mayor Ted Wheeler, along with Mayor Lightfoot of Chicago, Mayor de Blasio of New York, Mayor Durkin of Seattle, these world-class morons serve an important purpose because they tell other world-class morons all over the planet, hey, you too could be the mayor of a major U.S. city because you could be a total idiot. Look at this. What a disaster. What a disaster. So Ted Wheeler last night, and I was watching these clips as they were popping up on social media, and Ted Wheeler decided to go down because, you know, he's like, yeah, I'm a person of the people. I'm going to go down there. I'm going to talk to them. I totally am with them, man. We're going to dismantle systemic racism together. Yeah, sure you are, buddy. Sure you are. The Portland mayor went down, masked up. He went down, and one thing we know for sure, a cotton or fabric mask does not help you with tear gas, really. So there's that. He went down to hang out and talk to the mob, the Antifa Democrat base. Remember, these are Democrats. I'm going to keep saying it. They're all going to vote for Biden if they vote at all. They all support Democrat policies. They adhere to the beliefs of mainstream left-wing American ideology. Right? That's where they are. And Ted Wheeler goes down there to have a conversation with them. And here's some of how it goes. Play clip 9.
It stings. It's hard to breathe. And I can tell you with 100% honesty, I saw nothing that provoked this response. It's nasty stuff. I'm not afraid, but I am pissed off.
What are you pissed about?
This is a egregious overreaction on the part of the federal officers. There was nothing that I saw anybody do that warranted this reaction. And all it's doing, as you can see, It hasn't stopped the threat. They fired munitions, they fired tear gas. All it's done is piss everybody off even more. It's made people angry. They've come in and they've cooked the hornet's nest. This is not a de-escalation strategy. This is flat out urban warfare.
Urban warfare, he says, from not the lunatics with weapons and moving in paramilitary formation on the street to break laws in his city. He's the mayor. He's supposed to keep law and order in that city. Remember, the police force is under the supervision, under the direction of the mayor's office. So there's lawlessness in his city, and Ted Wheeler of Portland wants you to know that the overreaction of the federal government's the real problem here. Yeah. Oh, yeah. What a stunningly, grotesquely stupid, weaselly, dishonest moron. Why is he down there at all? Now, I wish I could play for you, but we really can't because there's so much, there's all this video online of him down there in the heart of these protests. And he's really and they're not a protest, they're riots. I'm sorry. We got to use these are Democrats who are rioting. They're not protesters who want a conversation. That's media spin. That's a lie. These are rioting Democrats. It's not a mostly peaceful protest. It is explicitly, openly intended to cause fear and destruction and use the threat of force to get their way, like domestic terrorists. But I couldn't play for you, although it would be really fun, all of the video, all the audio that's out there where Mayor Ted Wheeler shows up to his constituents, right? These are all people who I'm sure voted for Ted Wheeler or would, again, if they do vote. And do you know what they were yelling? Blank you, Ted Wheeler. Shut the blank up. I mean, there's so much just scorn and humiliation. This guy's pummeled with it, and he's on their side, right? And you can just hear him in his head, I'm on your side. Why don't you like me more? I'm on your side. But he can't really say that. Although he says he's with them in solidarity on the issue of dismantling structural racism and all this stuff. Of course. I mean, the mayor is such a buffoon. He's saying that I didn't see anything that justifies this. They lit a federal courthouse on fire last night. That's arson. People should go to prison for a very long time for that. The BLM protesters in Minnesota did this a couple months ago and killed somebody. Arson is a serious crime. Destruction of property is a crime. I know Democrats like to pretend, oh, it's just stuff. It's just stuff. No, the government has an obligation to protect safety and to protect property. Or else we should all take it into our own hands to do both. And we know the libs don't want that. Heaven forbid, the law-abiding, the rational, the reasonable take up arms in their own defense. Well, we know what happened in St. Louis. Then the prosecutors all of a sudden will bare their teeth. Then the prosecutors will come after you. They will try to make an example of you. This is true of Democrat prosecutors across the country now. If you stand up against the mob, you're the problem. But I have to tell you, it was just so amazing, really, to watch the mayor of a pretty good-sized city marching and walking alongside and pandering to the left. And they hate him. That's what he doesn't understand. You can bow to this mob. It exists as a mob. There are no concessions you can make. There's nothing you can do to make them like you. They want him to resign. That's what they were calling for as well when they weren't cursing at him. They want him to resign. Are they going to get a more far left, better mayor than this guy? You know, as a leftist, I'm saying, are they going to get somebody who's even more progressive and insane? No, I don't think so. I don't even know how that's possible. And this guy seems like he's to the left of AOC, if there's any space to the left. I don't know. They hate him, though. They ridicule him. They mock him. They think he's a joke, too. Because he at least has to put on the appearance of being a politician who has some grounding in reality. But this is what I really want you to take from this. The Democrats are in a spasm of rage and craziness right now. The whole Democrat Party. They've got a pathetic candidate in Joe Biden. They know this. We all see it. It's pathetic, not inspiring, not skillful, not particularly intelligent, too old, boring. Credibly accused of sexual assault, too. We never talk about that anymore. Isn't that interesting? That's never even brought up, is it? We have that guy on the Democrat side. And as long as that's who they put forward, I don't think that serious people have to treat the opinions of outraged Democrats seriously. This is absurd. But there is, I think, a growing recognition among the Democrat Party that now they've made their bed. Now they have to sleep in it. They've made the decision here. They are the party of riots. They are the riot party. They have to back these up. They have to find justifications for this. They have to make sure that all of their politicians take the softest possible touch in keeping these riots from completely spilling out of control and causing even more widespread destruction and possibly even a body count at some point. That's the real concern that we're all worried about. But they've created a monster here, you see. And they're in the early stages of seeing it's not clear that in a general election year they're really going to be able to control this. They thought it was great. BLM, protests for George Floyd. Yeah, they thought it was great. Get everyone out on the streets and forget about the pandemic. Everybody out on the streets. Go for it. We got our people. We got our Democrats out there marching and making demands, and corporate America running scared and all this stuff. All this stuff. Now what do? Now they are expecting, these mobs are expecting to get their way, and they're not going away. And the lockdowns feed into this too, because there's not enough normal life to drown out these lunatics and to give them something else to do. They have nothing else to do. They're not going away. The Democrat Party has to own this now. Chicago is a war zone. Portland is a riot zone. New York is falling apart. These are major nodes of Democrat power. These are large American cities. New York, the largest. Chicago, the third largest. And what are Democrats offering up to people? The only way that you could see this working out in their favor is in some ways the most breathtakingly cynical and disturbing one. And that is that the implied promise of the Democrat Party going into this election is vote for our guy or the riots never stop. Vote for our guy or we extend the lockdown so far you won't even remember what normal life is like. Their plan is not to appeal to the American voter in the middle, right? Forget about the crazy left and the Democrat base. Their plan is not to appeal to the voter in the middle. It's to terrify them. And the only way this stops is if you vote for Biden. That is their pitch. They are holding the American people hostage. And that's what you see in Portland. That's why the mayor goes down there. He knows the game, and they're practically spitting at the guy, cursing at him and telling him to resign. Democrats better be careful how this goes for them. It all seemed great for them a month ago, 6 weeks ago. Not so much anymore.
Under Operation Legend, we will also soon send federal law enforcement to other cities that need help. Other cities need help. They need it badly. They should call. They should want it. They're too proud or they're too political to do that. One of them is Albuquerque, New Mexico, where last fall, 55-year-old Jackie Vigil was murdered as she was getting into her car to go to the gym. We're joined today by her husband, Sam, and her sons, Raul and Kevin, both New Mexico State police officers.
Operation Legend, named for a young boy killed sleeping in his bed in Missouri. It has already been underway, this operation in Missouri, for some weeks, but now Trump is expanding it, using federal law enforcement agencies to assist cities in areas where there is lawlessness and a spike in violent crime. How could any person in authority, any person in the media, anyone paying attention, think that this is anything other than a good thing, right? Don't you want federal law enforcement to assist? Wouldn't you want there to be highly trained, reliable, well-equipped federal officers acting completely within the law? All this stuff you're hearing from the libs is whining crap. They don't wear the patches the way we want them to. They use an unmarked vehicle. They're federal law enforcement officers. You know, they were all in favor of the unobstructed power of the surveillance state when it came to Comey and the deep state hacks trying to help Hillary. But now when it comes to stopping either riots or stopping just unthinkable violent crime in Chicago, they're complaining about this. They're whining. There's no way that you could say that anyone is objecting to this in good faith. It's not possible to object in good faith. People are just looking for objections because Trump is doing it, and because think about what happens if these cities calm down after the deployment of federal police resources. What does it look like if in Chicago next month shootings are down 20%, 30%? Wow, it would make people think not only has Trump made a good decision, but what should we think of the decision that the Democrats have been pushing for the last 3 months? Defund the cops. Blame the cops. They're racist. They're part of white supremacy and a racist system. The stupidity of those statements, the stupidity of those claims is mind-blowing. And it's worse than just being stupid. It's also a policy blunder. People are suffering because Democrats like to say things that make them and their political ideology feel righteous. And they're self-righteous. They're sanctimonious. That is who they are. This was really all about their political mobilization and just an orgy of virtue signaling from Democrats. Oh, we care so much. Yeah, out on the streets. Defund police. Yeah, BLM, man. Yeah. People are pathetic. They're pathetic. They're not helping anyone. They're making everything worse. They don't have the ability to think critically about what's going on in these cities. They know nothing about law enforcement. They know nothing about the history of these cities and what has worked and what hasn't. But we suffer because of their stupidity and because of a just shockingly cowardly mainstream media. These people are so lucky to have the jobs that they do. They're overwhelmingly, the ones on TV in particular, are overpaid, entirely replaceable, unimpressive, narcissistic clowns. And they're hurting this country. They're actually hurting America by saying defund cops. I can't believe we're being evicted from our home that we didn't sell. That's what Deborah said when she learned that she was the victim of home title theft, which is a crime that can actually cost you your home. You see, title fraud is not covered by insurance or identity theft services. The only folks I trust to protect you are at Home Title Lock. Your home's legal titles online where cyber thieves can find it and forge your signature stating you sold your home to them. You only find out about this, and in Deborah's case, that's exactly what happened, when the eviction notice arrives. Home Title Lock puts a virtual barrier around your home's title, and if any tampering is detected, they instantly mobilize to stop it. So go to HomeTitleLock.com and register your address to see if you're a victim and don't know it. Use code BUCK for 30 free days of protection. That's code BUCK at HomeTitleLock.com. Again, use code BUCK for 30 free days of protection at HomeTitleLock.com.
That is why we are here today, to answer the pleas of those crying for justice and crying for help. For those people in Chicago and other cities where we'll be, help is on its way.
Help is on the way. It is indeed, except the Democrats don't want help. Why is that? They should be asked this question. You'll recall that the Democrats went through a period where they were saying before defund the police became the rallying cry, it was abolish ICE. Abolish ICE. Abolish ICE. That's what they were saying. That's what we were being told. And then when enough Democrat politicians had to be asked the question, so you want to abolish ICE, so we shouldn't have any enforcement of immigration law. That should not exist anymore? Because remember, it was abolish ICE. It wasn't cut ICE's funding 10%. Abolish ICE. Okay. What are you going to replace it with? And the Sandernistas would go on TV. Bernie Sanders and his crew would go on TV, and they would say, they'd mumble something about kids in cages. Oh my gosh, they'd say the stuff that the talking points, and then they would end up having to say, well, we're gonna fold that responsibility into another federal agency or create a new one. Oh, so you're going to abolish ICE to create immigrations and customs enforcement, right? Abolish ICE so you can create a new ICE that does the same thing that the old ICE did because that is necessary, you utter buffoons. So they had to back away from that. They lost on that one. You don't hear them talking about abolish ICE anymore, do you? That was 2 years ago, the summer of, 2018? Oh, that was a big one. Remember, AOC went down there. Oh, Border Patrol was threatening me and all that stuff that was going on. Really? You're gonna go after federal law enforcement like that? You're gonna claim that you were being threatened? I mean, the stuff that was happening from the Democrats was it was disgraceful. But that was their identity politics, open borders, all coming together. What's their position now going to be? Okay, so we've had all this conversation now about police. Trump signed, and it was a mistake. But hey, the Trumpster's back, baby. He's doing what he needs to do. He signed an executive order on law enforcement reform to do transparency. Do you even hear about transparency anymore and all this stuff? Nah. What about statues? I thought we were supposed to be also worried about the statues that were a form of inanimate tyranny all across the country, right? Oh, no, we're not talking about that anymore. It just, every week it changes. Whatever the libs can get angry about, change this sports team's name. Fire some people from the New York Times because they don't agree 100% with the craziest left-wing ideology. All the stuff that you see. What exactly is their argument against federal law enforcement officers in U.S. cities enforcing the law? They're not telling you that they're not enforcing the law, right? They're trying to say that they don't like their tactics or, they're Ted Wheeler, they're kicking the hornet's nest. What's the real answer? They need to be pushed. If we had a serious media, every Democrat, including Joe hiding down in the basement, every Democrat would have to answer the question, why do you think that you don't need federal law enforcement assistance for your city? You already have federal law enforcement operating in your city all the time and have for as long as you've been the mayor or, the governor of your state, whatever it may be. So what is the real explanation here? Well, it turns out Mayor Lightfoot in Chicago has now agreed as of today to work with an additional federal deployment of troops. I'm sorry. Sometimes, because it's weird. We don't think of law enforcement as being deployed in that way because law enforcement's all over the country already. So Chicago is going to have, additional federal assistance. And let's hope that they are able to bring down the violent crimes. I mean, this is exactly what you need. You need U.S. Marshals going after the worst gangbangers. You need DEA going after the cartel connections to these gangs and, going after MS-13, going after the Bloods and the Crips and, Latin Kings and all these different national gang affiliations. Those law enforcement agencies do that all the time. You want to stop violent crime, stop the violent criminals. We know this. This has been established for a long time. Democrats, though, they're on the wrong side of this issue, and now they're scrambling. They're scrambling. And Trump has finally been able to, and I've been saying, where's the counterpunch? Where Trump is finally now on political offense. And it's political offense where he's right. He is helping America. He is going to help save lives, save neighborhoods, save minority lives predominantly. And all of this is showing what the Democrat Party is really about, the relentless and ruthless pursuit of power at the expense of the very people they claim to care so much about. That's why you have these complete morons like de Blasio. De Blasio is the worst mayor in America, but seems to think that he's not under the jurisdiction of America. These mayors are like, oh, well, we're going to stop them. They can't. No. The mayor has no ability whatsoever in the law to tell the FBI that they can't enforce laws in New York City. Not how our system works. In fact, if you look back at our history, really look at our history and why we have the system we do of federalism and of states and the federal government working together, putting down insurrections and restoring law and order and preventing states from violating federal law as a function of policy. Go back to Eisenhower, go back to integrating the schools against the wishes of Democrats. By the way, you look at what has happened in the past and you understand that, of course, presidents do this. These federal law enforcement agencies exist to enforce the laws in states. They're not just buildings in D.C. that have no mission, that have no mandate. They have personnel all over the country. Some might argue they have too many personnel and too many agencies. There are dozens of federal law enforcement agencies. I can't name them all. I can't even begin to. Dozens of federal law enforcement agencies. So there's a lot happening right now. This has been the first week I can think of in really certainly since the pandemic felt like it was breaking a bit, where Trump has been able to be on political offense. And also doing just the right thing for the country. This isn't just about messaging. It's about protecting people. Play clip 3.
Today, I'm announcing a surge of federal law enforcement into American communities plagued by violent crime. We'll work every single day to restore public safety, protect our nation's children, and bring violent perpetrators to justice. We've been doing it, and you've been seeing what's happening all around the country. We've just started this process, and frankly, we have no choice but to get involved.
What would be the alternative? What would be the other way to go? Allow these cities to continue with this mayhem? Look, the Democrats, I understand they're not in an enviable position right now. It was all great when they could. There was one incident of heinous police brutality that we all saw, we all condemned. But Democrats didn't care that we all saw it, condemned it, and that there was going to be probably a life sentence handed to this. We'll see. Handed to the officer involved. No, and then it turned into this huge movement and protests and protests around the world. The uprising of the left. That's what it was. That was the inciting issue used for a broad uprising of the left and the international left too. I mean, now we're getting into some real Marxist kind of stuff. But what have been the results of this? As I've been saying now for weeks, and I'm glad that others have been following me into the breach on this one, Black Lives Matter has made everything worse for everyone so far, except for some of the organizers who are getting lining their pockets, and some of the people in the media who use this to grow their following and improve their reach and so on and so forth. This is disgraceful, what they've done to the country. And I'm happy to see that if you're paying attention, it could not be more clear that the Democrats are the party of riots and that they have put themselves on that side. They think that rioting and destroying property and attacking police is a legitimate form of political expression. They do not condemn it. Find me condemnations, real condemnations, not, we need laws to be enforced, but no. I mean, hey, Knock off all this crap in Portland, in Seattle. Hey, let's band together and go after the people who are shooting toddlers in Chicago. How could we not be entirely united on this? Well, Democrats have other political goals. And they think that the problem is a lack of social services or something. That will stop people from shooting up a funeral and hitting 15 individuals. That will stop it. If only we had less billionaires running around controlling things, or if we had, just think of all the left-wing talking points you can think of. If our police departments weren't all some way systemically racist. Just think about it. That's what they offer up to you. It's not going to solve anything. In fact, they intentionally deflect responsibility away from where the real problems are and think that we should be listening to them. They won't even deal with the root causes, the root problems of issues of crime and lawlessness. I mean, don't even get me started on how many of these Antifa idiots we see that went to, that I'm sure studied in incredibly liberal universities and spent tens of thousands of dollars to learn nothing, just to be indoctrinated into being fools, utter fools. We got a lot of problems. We got a lot of things to clean up, but sending in federal law enforcement, that's a cleanup that needs to happen right now. All right, so what are the libs saying about all this? I've told you they're in a tough spot right now. They were really having a field day, having a great time, pretending to care so much about racism. Yes, we're dismantling structural racism. Let's have a lot of white protesters scream in the face of black cops and call them horrible names. That's what Democrats are all about. Okay. What are the Democrats actually saying? You got Chicago Mayor Lightfoot. Remember, she was the one who quite famously during the pandemic lockdown was like, no one's allowed to get haircuts. And then someone said, hold on a second, you just got a haircut. She goes, yeah, but I'm public facing. Oh, okay. In that case, I guess it's not hypocritical. Here is what Lightfoot is claiming, or she was as of this morning. I think it's had to change because now she's working with Trump or accepting federal law enforcement. It's not like she has a choice. Can I just put that out there? Play 7.
And I'm calling on all Chicagoans that if you see something that doesn't look right, please don't hesitate to report it. Call 911, call 311. We are going to remain diligent, and if we see any steps out of line, particularly with DHS or Border Patrol, we are not going to hesitate to take the president to court and stop any unconstitutional actions.
We're going to take him to court. Yeah. Yeah. Let's take the FBI and the DEA and U.S. Marshals to court and DHS. Yeah. What? How is this sensible at all? In what world? Why is she assuming that federal law enforcement is going to be violating the Constitution? They're operating in her city every day. Chicago Police Department, I can assure you, could use U.S. Marshals taking some of the high-risk warrants off their hands, for example, and saying, hey, no, we'll go get that gang leader. We'll take that one for you guys. Don't worry about it. We got that. In a normal world, in this country, usually, and I've seen this, right? I've been a part of terrorism investigations where we had CBP, DHS, FBI, U.S. Marshals, you name it. They'll bring in Fish and Wildlife if they need to for some reason, right? I mean, whatever it is. And we all work together. Yeah, there's little turf battles and that's nonsense. At the end of the day, we want to get the bad guys, we want to keep people safe. She's acting like federal, these are law enforcement officers, just like her own cops in Chicago. And she's acting like they're an invading army or something. Ooh, if you see anything bad from them, okay, sure. We'll wait on that one. Good luck. It's amazing, Look at this. Whatever Trump is for, they're against. It's more of the same. Whatever Trump wants to do, they oppose. Trump wants to use good cops who have federal training and resources to save lives. Nope. Don't like that. Why? Trump. Completely nuts. Completely nuts. Let's have, what do we have next here? Oh, yes. De Blasio. He actually even blames his own cops in New York. Play 8.
But let's face it, the entire society has been through just an epic dislocation. People don't have work. People don't go to school. They don't have anything. And we're going to fix it. We're going to deal with it. Remember, Allison, this is a city 25 years ago going through hell with crime, and we fought our way back, and we'll fight our way through this. But we have to do it the way that works for New York City. It can't be about someone else sending in folks not trained the right way to be here, who only, unfortunately, would make things worse and could lead to more violence. That's the great irony. You send in folks who are not meant for this work, and even worse things happen.
What a complete and utter disgrace. And just a moron. They're trained for this work. Honestly, I'm just going to say it. I've worked at the federal level. I've worked at the local level for the NYPD. They're generally better trained for the work. More federal, and that's not a knock on any local law enforcement, but the federal resources, you all know, are a lot more extensive. What is de Blasio even talking about? And it's just lies, folks. It's just lies. Now we're just in the sea of Democrat lies trying to make our way through it.